Welcome to the Thrive Today podcast. I'm Natalie Born, the media host for Thrive Today and the founder of Innovation Meets Leadership. We are a platform for women who lead and believe, and we are so excited to have our friend Tinsley English back on the podcast. She's the author of Grit, Growth, and Gumption, and she is a coach for women in leadership. Tinsley, I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast.
Natalie, I am so honored to be back on the podcast. Anytime I sit down with you, whether it is just for a coffee or our text threads that go on or our voice text, my spirit feels at ease and I just get excited about all things women, all things thriving, all things innovation. So I'm honored to be back.
Yeah, well, you know what? If you are a Thrive Today member and you're part of our membership, we're actually featuring Tinsley in our box this quarter. And so I'm so excited because women are going to get access to your book that you released on grit, growth, and gumption. It is truly a guide for women in leadership. So I'm so excited for them to get their hands on that and maybe talk about that for a little bit because we recorded an episode on this already. And so I want to encourage everybody to go back and find that episode with myself and Tinsley where we talk about your book, but maybe just give us like a few seconds on it.
Sure. And I think that when we recorded it, it was early on
Yeah.
in the release and I had not spoken about it publicly a lot. So I think we're over a year into the launch. And so I've got a different perspective on how the book is helping people. So I wrote this book because when I was coming up through the ranks as an early leader, I didn't have a title and I didn't have quote unquote direct reports, but I was expected to delegate to people and to shepherd people to do things according to standard and to serve our clients at a different level. And I was not equipped. Of course, I could show them how to do things the way that I did them. And I could show them kind of the Tinsley way of doing things and the Tinsley style of sending an email or the Tinsley way of negotiating. But what I found is that I was hitting a really big brick wall with them connecting with me. I was over here and there was this huge gap, this leadership confidence gap between them and me. And I really knew that I was not connecting. And so I had to go out and source an executive coach. And as a working mom with a small child and a budget, I didn't have the money to pay for a coach, but I spoke with my husband and he's like, if you really want to do this leadership thing and you want to do it well, let's figure out the budget. And so I put my money down and it was funny because the lady did a 360 review on me with my team, with my, quote unquote indirect report, with my producers, with my husband. And I would say, Steve, I cook your meals. Like, be careful what you say to this lady, right? And even my stepmom, who is also my mentor. And it came back that Tinsley, your team knows that that you love them, right? But you love them too hard. You love them like the aunt at the family barbecue that like hugs you, but she squeezes like the life and the breath out of you. That's how I love my team. And so I really had to understand that my empathy score and my emotional intelligence score was low. And that was a hard pill to swallow, Natalie, but I'm so glad that I did that. And I'm so glad that 10 years later, I got this 3 a.m. shoot straight up in the bed, wake up call from God that said, "Hey, girl, you've been through a lot between now and, your 35-year-old Tinsley. Why don't we put that out for other people
Mhm.
to read and to learn from and write it fast, don't make it perfect, write it an 8th grade reading level so that somebody that maybe English is their second language, maybe they didn't finish high school, so that they have access to this as well and take things like resilience and emotional intelligence and vulnerability and break it down in a way that they can understand so these advanced leadership topics don't seem so far away.
Yeah, that's so good. Wow. Well, I would really encourage people to check that out because, like you said, it's a guidebook for navigating some of those more challenging things in your career. And then I'd love to kind of switch gears because you're working on a few brand new projects, and I'd love to talk a little bit about that. And I think today we're going to anchor in and talk about one of those projects. based around a letter that I saw you write on LinkedIn called Dear Healthcare Provider, which really struck a nerve, if I'm honest. I mean, it was funny, it was fierce, it was heartbreaking, but you really kind of talk about, the challenge that a lot of women face as they get, up in age, if you will. I'm right there as well, getting up in age, but
Seasoned and spicy,
seasoned,
right?
I liked it. But yeah, I mean, basically, we deal with exhaustion. We just did an episode called The Hidden Cost of Hustle. So this is a
Oh.
really timely conversation that we're having right now because there is so much going on in the world and with what we're dealing with physically as women. So I'd love to just dive in and talk about your new project and some of that as well.
Sure, and I'm so glad that LinkedIn post resonated with you and so many other people. So the premise of the post, and I can reshare it with Natalie, a link to that. It really was a spoof on an out of office message, like a tongue in cheek out of office message where it's what you see, which is, "Hello, thank you for your message. I'm out of the office this afternoon on a personal appointment. I will return within 2 hours, and I will, respond to your message. Thank you." But what if I really wanted to say in my out of office message is that, "Hello, thank you for your message. I am currently out of office at a doctor's appointment, sitting in a drafty, cold exam room where I've been for the last 45 minutes, with no clothes on except a flimsy gown between me and the air conditioner, waiting for my healthcare provider for 45 minutes. And when she comes in, she is going to tell me that this is part of getting older. Some of this is in my head. She's going to offer me some things like solutions that I've already heard 3 times before. She's gonna suggest steering away from a surgery that could potentially save my life because it would lay me up on bed rest for 6 weeks. And so I that's not verbatim of what the quote was about, but it really is. At the end of the email message, I say, "I will return to the office feeling dismissed, dejected, and basically unsupported. Thank you for your message." And so I wrote that, and like I said, it's tongue in cheek, but I felt so much more supported as a young mother when I would go see my OBGYN and would talk about the things that were going on and the changes within my body as I got further along in my pregnancy. And in the office, even, it's, "How is your pregnancy coming along?" "Oh, well, that happened to me when I was pregnant." And it was like, there's just this constant checking in with you
Mhm.
when you are going through that pregnancy phase, and it's not there when you're going through this perimenopause, menopause, midlife phase, and so I just wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit and say, if we're really honest in our out of office messages and honest with our teams and our organizations about what's really going on. So it's really more of a conversation starter.
That's so good, and I appreciate the fact that for the longest time, I think that these worlds have been kinda compartmentalized, right? You have your work self that you bring to work, and then you have these things that are going on, and, you talk openly about so many of these challenges. You also talk openly about the capacity gap, if you will, right? This fact that, like, high achieving women are facing emotionally, physically, spiritually, there's all these different elements, and you're expected to show up with clarity, with courage. You're
And
expected to,
hustle.
not be depleted. You're expected to lead well at all times, even though you need rest, and that, we're just expected to perform, perform, perform. And sometimes, right, as you're going through some of these midlife things, your body is saying, "Hey, hold on, time out. I can't operate the way that I used to. I'm screaming out for help. I need you to change some things." And most women are just pushing right past that.
That's really scary too, because what a lot of people are calling it is she's just burning out. And maybe if she's tapping on the door to the C-suite, well, she's just reached the level that she can rise. We thought she could get there, but we're seeing now with the way she's acting and some of the behavior she's exhibiting, maybe she's just not the right pick for this particular role. And so we joked before we got on, but if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm not well versed enough or educated enough to recognize some of these symptoms that, oh, this is not just typical stress or typical burnout. I'm gonna end up on the floor, of exhaustion, in my case, needing an emergency hysterectomy. I'm gonna end up on the floor, and somebody else that's already on my tail is just gonna be able to step over me, and I cannot let that happen in good conscience to these good women that I've met out there in my leadership journey.
Yeah. And that is part of the cost, right? I think that when you get to certain levels slash ages as well within your career, you now have to think about this, right? So women, in their younger years, they're out for pregnancies, right? And that's the time when oftentimes people step over you in your career and get ahead, is those moments that you're taking to be at home and you're choosing to take care of your family. And so I do think, like, what's the answer to this, Tinsley? Like, how do we, whether it's, pregnancy and you're taking time away to be with your new baby, or whether it's you're older and you're taking time away to get yourself to the next phase of life, like, what does that look like to stay engaged and to stay in the fight, if you will, when people are kind of waiting for you to step back so they can step right in?
I think it takes a pause. It takes a pause for you to say, "Something's not right," whether it's something that I'm thinking or something that I'm externally feeling. Pausing to take an assessment of where you are in this particular time and how you're showing up for yourself, how you're showing up in your family, how you're showing up at work, how you're showing up in your friend group, and recognizing that I'm not okay and I want to be okay. The other stage that a lot of us are going through while we're, reaching that level of the highest levels of leadership or the highest level that we can get to in our chosen profession is that our children are leaving.
Mhm.
You know me, I've got a rising senior in high school, and I'm gonna be an empty nester soon. And
Wow.
so when I think about that road, the next 12 to 18 months, I'm not the kind that's just gonna sit on my couch and binge Netflix for 365. I want something else. I want something more.
Mhm.
And so I challenge women to think about what that more is for them. And the first thing that I'll start with is more from your healthcare providers.
Mhm.
And I laugh, I think about that old show, The Apprentice, with Trump, and he would line everybody up, and I think about, like, lining everybody up on your healthcare team and asking them a series of questions, like, how much training have you had on somebody that is going through perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, and see what their answers are, and if the answers are, "I got 15 minutes, maybe 15 days of this in medical school," you give them the old, "You're fired," and dismiss them from the room because you really do need that tribe around you and the person that helped you deliver your babies might not be the best person to shepherd you through this life, and that's okay. And you're a big girl, you can have that conversation. But it's everything from your GYN, a nutritionist, pot- maybe a trainer. And when you think about your GYN, is your GYN testing things like your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, your cortisol? And if they're testing it, are they telling you your baseline and baseline's okay? Like, I'm not a baseline person and nor are you. So why should we let our hormones be baseline? We want people that understand that we want to feel optimal at this stage of life. And, hormone replacement therapy is good for some, it's not good for others. But just make sure that you've got a healthcare team around you that understands you, that will take the time more than 10 minutes to listen to you, and that's in it for the long haul. I would say that if you find people like that, support them.
Mhm.
Share them with your friends. If they have taken the extra step to get additional training and education in this space, make sure that you're giving something back to them to show them that you appreciate them and that you want other people to know about them. So that was
Mhm.
a long-winded answer to the question of that's the first step, I think,
Yeah.
is really assessing where you are and assessing who is on that healthcare team for you.
I love the way you think about it. I even heard you call it like a healthcare squad. It's
Mhm.
almost like really assessing what you need in this season, and I like what you said that, hey, just because that's what you used in the last season, it's not necessarily what you need in the next season. And this is an important, I think, spiritual conversation about seasons in general. Not every season looks the same. I think we know that. And so as you move from one season to another, looking around, and I like that you talk about doctors, coaches, therapists, all of it, and saying who's not serving me well in this season and what mindset shift do I need to have to move into the next season. So I think, women need to know that that's okay, right? It's okay to, as you called it, fire the people that aren't working for you and find the ones that will help you get to the next season properly. What would you say are some, like, red flags that you need to walk away? I mean, one of them we talked about was just not knowing anything about the season you're in. What would you say are some other ones?
And I love that you talk about seasons. I recently did a Sunday reset with my Zoom group about Esther. I think it's Esther 4:14, but you are made for a time such as this. And I want women to understand you were made for a time such as this. If you're in your 40s, if you're in your 50s, if you're in your 60s or 70s, this is your time. Like, this is a terrific time to reset and take stock of where you are. And so Esther understood that. She understood that the time that she was in was exactly when the world needed her. So I love that. So red flags, dismissing, saying it's part of getting older. In my case, it was, oh, you might consider a hysterectomy, but it'll put you out of commission for 6 weeks. You won't be able to drive. For a high achieving woman with children, to tell her she won't be able to drive somewhere for 6 weeks, like, that's just not realistic and it's not accurate. Now, depending on the type of hysterectomy you have to have, it could be, but for me personally, it was not accurate. I was back doing my thing within 2 weeks. So the dismissing, not taking enough time, not listening. You know when somebody's not listening to you, Natalie.
Mhm.
It's just the nodding, I think that Dr. Mary Claire said, the whiny woman. So for me personally, it was the dismissing. And if you start to read enough about this, there are a lot of healthcare providers that are just not well versed on the pros and cons of whether it's hormone replacement therapy. So making sure that you feel confident that the person you're having the conversation with is educated on what you're going through. One of the ladies that I had on my podcast this season revealed something to me that I had not known about perimenopause, in that UTIs are a big part of perimenopause. And who would have known that? Urinary tract infections. So that's one symptom. So we continue to find breadcrumbs along the way that are saying, that's why I'm not feeling good. With the list of symptoms that are tying back to the season of life are emerging every day, and maybe they've been there all along. We just didn't have access to it. So, you are the CEO of your life. And if you had an underperformer as the CEO on your team, you would let that underperformer go. So just make sure that you've got top performers on that healthcare squad.
I love that. So, talk to me a little bit about this more framework. You kind
Mhm.
of mentioned it a little bit, but where did it come from, and how have you been seeing it live out, if you will, in the platform that you run?
Well, I love my mama. And she is we talked about her on the last time we got together, and I gave her as my example of grit, and she's the grittiest, most adaptable woman I know. But I have the advantage of having her live right around the corner from me. And I won't say how old she is, because even if I told you how old she was and I showed you a picture, you would not believe it. But she's taken really good care of herself. She's been blessed with, good health. And when think about what more in midlife looks like, it's her. So I am kind of like around a person, a woman in later years that is living into this concept of more. And asking for more as a woman is hard. Like, we're taught to kind of give more to our families, give more to our organizations and teams. But how good are we at asking for more, whether it's more money, more time, more flexibility? I don't think we're great at it. So I want more to be a concept that we get really familiar with. And as you know, I'm all about thriving, not just surviving. So when you think about more, the M, and I love acronyms, right? So if you think about M, that is mastery of self. So to lead anybody, you have to learn to lead yourself first. And so that is understanding my body, my rhythms, my behaviors. And then we go into ownership of voice. And I joked a little bit ago. I said, "You're a big girl," but we are big girls. And as big girls, we need to own our voice. If something is not sitting right with us or feeling good to us, we need to own that and we need to ask hard questions. We need to set our boundaries so that we honor that voice. And then the R is reimagining success. Just like your doctor that delivered your baby, that's not the right provider in the season of life. Maybe that job you imagined at 35, at 45, at 50 doesn't feel good anymore. Maybe that's not the version of success that feels authentic to you anymore. And raising your hand and recognizing that that's okay to reevaluate success, I want women to just embrace that as a challenge. And then finally embodying radiance. And I'm not talking just about drinking enough water so you've got this glowing skin or, your hair and the collagen and everything like that. But but having that renewed sense of spirit and confidence so that you are radiating light and you're radiating life everywhere you go. It's like you took a really good nap.
I love this. This is a cool framework, and I think it becomes maybe something that's like the what could it look like if I'm focusing on these areas? And that's what I really like about it is it's aspirational, but then those aspirations become intentions, and then the intentions become reality. And so that's a really cool framework. Well, just in the little bit of time we have left today, Tinsley, what final thoughts would you have for the ladies as they think about some of these topics we've covered today, right? We've kind of hit a lot of different topics, but how would you kind of bring it all together for us?
I would say stop shrinking to make other people feel comfortable. That is not your responsibility to make everybody feel okay of where you are at this stage of life. I believe that vulnerability is a superpower. And so if we lean into that vulnerability of saying, "Hey, this is what I'm going through," whether it's to your HR team or to your leader or manager. This is a season I'm walking through. So if you notice things about me, I used to be able to quote exactly what was on our last quarter's financials, and now I can't even remember my phone number. This is what's going on, and I am addressing it,
Yeah.
and I need to partner with you to walk
Mhm.
me through it. So I would say that out of office message is doesn't have to be a cry for help. It can be an affirmative statement to say, "I've just returned from my healthcare appointment." And, it say that say let's rephrase it real quick. So, say you set the out of office message, but then you come back and you get to hit reply
Mhm.
and you say, "Thanks so much for your patience. I'm back from my healthcare appointment." And guess what? I had a very honest conversation with my provider, and we decided that she's just not equipped to handle some of the situations and the symptoms and what I'm going through at this time. But she provided me with someone's name that I can reach out to and, XOXO, flip the script, empower yourself, protect your health, protect your heart, protect your mind and your spirit so that you can thrive in this season.
Well, I love it. That's beautiful final thought, Tinsley. Thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find and follow you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn every day, Natalie. It's so much fun to share and support on that platform. So you can find me Tinsley English on LinkedIn. You can also go to my website, gritgrowthandgumption.com. And you can also find me on Spotify and Apple. That is my podcast by the same name. And that's how you find me. And I'm excited to coach women and to speak to women at conferences and in workshops about this more concept because I do believe there are so many women. I think it's 3,000 women are entering this stage in some form in the United States every day,
Wow.
3 to 6,000. We got to be ready to support them.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tinsley. You always bring a breath of fresh air and a wealth of knowledge every time you join us. Well, if you
Thank you,
haven't had a
Natalie.
chance to step into community, let me ask you the question. What are you waiting for? Head over to thrivetoday.com to sign up to receive group coaching plus monthly resources from Thrive Today right at your fingertips. Ladies, we love you. We love hanging out with you. We will see you next time, but in the meantime, don't forget to thrive.